In this lesson, we'll learn what pivots are and how they can be modified. A pivot is simply the point at which we transform our object. So notice, going back to the forearm, with that selected, we can get an idea of where its pivot is by looking at this axis point. So we can see that it's centered with the forearm. Same thing goes for the hand, and then for the upper arm, we can see where its pivot is. Now, we saw a problem as we started to rotate the forearm in the last lesson. Let's go ahead and go back to our rotate tool, pressing the E key. So we start to rotate that around. You can see that we're not rotating at the right spot. This object, instead, we want to rotate from the elbow. Same thing goes with the hand. With that selected, if we were to rotate that around, we could even move it around, pressing the W key. But we want to be concerned most with rotating this. And we could see, again, we're rotating at the wrong spot. Instead, we'd want that rotation to happen around the wrist. So how can we fix this? Well, we can modify our object pivots in Max, which is a great thing. So let's go ahead and start with the wrist. That's selected. We'll want to head over to the hierarchy panel. From there, we can choose Effect Pivot Only. We just want to modify this object's pivot. Alright, so with that selected, we get this extra manipulator in our scene, this gizmo, that we can now start to move and reposition the pivot with. So we want to go to our Move tool, pressing the W key to do this. From there, we can go ahead and start to move this over into place. And we want to check this from all angles. So I've just moved it in the ZX axis. I'll go ahead and bring the camera around and start to move this over in the Y axis, the green axis. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll check this one more time from the side. Looks like we can bring this down a little bit more in the Z axis. Okay, so once we're finished, we'll want to toggle this button again to turn off pivot mode. And now, as we start to rotate this hand, we're getting much better results. Beautiful. Let's say we do the same thing for the forearm. So with that selected, we know how to do this now. We'll want to head over to the hierarchy panel, which we should already be under. We'll want to choose Effect Pivot Only. Go to the Move tool so we can actually move the pivot. And this time I'm going to move in the YX axis. So we can start to drag that over. That looks pretty good from the top view. Let's go ahead and check the side view. I kind of like that. Okay, great. Let's see what this gives us. So I'll turn off Effect Pivot Only now. Select the forearm. Now as we start to rotate this, beautiful. Now we're getting the right functionality. So in this lesson, we've learned what pivots are and how they can be modified for better results.